Let me tell you what started humming under the wheat the week the town stopped whispering. The rain had settled, the inspectors were gone, and the valley finally sounded like itself again. Wind in heads of grain, the slow tick of the red windmill, buffalo chewing like old metronomes. Then, just before dawn, the ground sang one note. Not loud, true. It came up through Jonah's boots, up the porch beams, up Sera's bones, like a tuning fork hidden in the earth. And that was the morning the field learned our names. Here's why that single note could undo everything. A signal is a flag. Flags bring ships. Ours are theirs. If the transmission pings corporate weather grids, they'll call it unregistered infrastructure and seize the land. If it hits Sera's people, the collectors won't be the only ones to arrive. Either way, secrecy ends. And with it, the quiet life they've defended. One tone, broadcast long enough, turns a home into a beacon, and beacons are invitations you can't unsend. The note finds Jonah before the light does. He's halfway through his first coffee, cup braced in both hands like he's warming a small planet, when the porch boards give a tiny shiver. Not the casual groan of old lumber, not the knock of wind. A hum, steady and fine, like a violin string plucked by someone who remembers the song but not the words. He sets the mug down and holds his breath. There it is again, thin as fishing line, strong as steel cable. It rises through the joists, touches the inside of his teeth, then fades back into soil as if it never left. Sera is already at the door, hair caught up in a bandana, jacket thrown over yesterday's work shirt. "You felt it," she says, not asking. "Felt it," he answers, because the word heard is wrong for a sound that uses your bones. They walk into the yard with the careful pace of people trying not to break a moment. The sky is the blue of a held breath. Dew is everywhere, bright dots on a map they've drawn together for months. The dog trots ahead, then stops, head tilted toward the north plot where rain came first and hardest. The red windmill turns once, twice. Slow approval. Sera kneels at the edge of the wheat and presses her palm to the ground. Jonah crouches beside her and does the same, because imitation is a kind of trust. The hum comes again, up through the dirt into his skin, a sweet, precise thread. Sera's face shifts from curiosity to recognition to something Jonah doesn't see often. Caution. "What is it?" he asks. "A call," she says. "Not a word yet, a tone." "The field is resonating on a frequency I did not teach it," Jonah squints. "Can fields learn on their own?" "They can inherit," she says, listening. "We laid patterns, memory for water, pathways for shade. Sometimes patterns touch other patterns. Sometimes they shake hands with things older." "Older than what?" he says, already knowing he won't like the answer. She looks toward the north, past the fence line, past the low rise where the soil darkens. "Older than your survey maps," she says gently. "Older than that windmill. Maybe older than anything with a roof." The note trembles and shifts, one half step up, like someone testing a microphone in a church. Jonah's throat goes dry the way it does when he stands to speak at town hall. "You think we woke something?" "I think," Sera says. "Something noticed we were listening." They walk the row edges, pausing where the hum feels strongest. It's louder near the shallow swale Sera carved during the drought to slow runoff. The swale is a green ribbon now, thick with volunteer clover and a few stubborn sunflowers that found faith in the leftovers. Jonah kneels again, fingers in the cool loam. He remembers the first day he sank his hands here after the rain, remembers the way the soil held his palm like a promise. Today it holds his palm like a telegram. Sera takes the small meter she carries for show-and-tell days, human enough to pass inspection, clever enough to notice what most tools ignore. She places 2 nodes in the soil and watches the screen bloom with a soft pulse. "Subsonic," she murmurs. "Below your hearing. Riding the water lattice we built, it is beautiful." Jonah tries to see beauty in the graph. All he sees is a heartbeat. "Can anyone else detect it?" "If they are listening for life," she says. "Most are not." A beat, then a tilt of her head. "But machines remember curiosity when you feed them. The enforcement grid may tug on this thread, ask where it goes. So might my people." He feels the old ache in his gut. the one that arrived with the first inspectorship, the one that slept while the town circled, the one that wakes whenever sky machines learn a new word for mine. Can we quiet it? Sera's hand hovers above the swale like a blessing. I don't want to. Not until we understand who is speaking. He scrubs at his jaw, stubble rasping like sandpaper on a new plank. We got 2 timelines, Sera. Understanding and not getting noticed. Then we do both, she says, as if choosing both is as simple as naming both. We will dampen the amplitude, less broadcast, more whisper, and we will listen better. They spend the morning making the field shire. Sera weaves a mesh of straw and biochar through the swale like lace on a collar, not to choke the sound, but to absorb its excess. Jonah spreads a thin layer of compost along the highest arc, the good black mixture that smells like rain that remembers how to be helpful. He roughs the surface with his boot heel so wind can tuck the edges in. He doesn't know if any of it matters scientifically. He knows it matters to him to do. Between tasks, he watches Sera do her kind of work, the kind you can't photograph for a grant. She tunes with her hands, not her scythe, the way a piano tuner nudges a stubborn note until it sits where the song needs it. She hums, barely, a countertone that disappears as soon as it leaves her throat, and the ground hum answers lower, softer. His shoulders loosen. Even the dog sighs. By noon, the porch boards have stopped trembling. The hum still brushes his ankles when he stands in the swale, but it no longer climbs his spine. The field is whispering behind cupped hands now, not shouting into a storm. They eat on the steps because tables feel like declarations, and today, declarations seem rude. Sera draws in her notebook. Circles within circles, lines that look like irrigation until you notice they intersect like constellations. She labels the nodes with human letters and alien marks, a bilingual map for a place that wasn't bilingual until they insisted. What do you think it is? Jonah asks around a bite of bread. Honest guess. Sera taps the center circle, the one sitting under the swale's lowest point. A beacon, she says, but not a flare. A doorbell, very old. Very polite, he huffs a laugh. I never met a polite doorbell that didn't mean company. Company, she echoes as if trying the word on. Her face shadows for a heartbeat, then clears. We will be ready. The afternoon brings 2 tests. First, a county weather drone pauses overhead longer than feels accidental. It pings the field 3 times, each ping a little hungrier than the last. Sera keeps her gaze down, counts silently to 30, and the drone loses interest, as if the field has become boring on paper, exactly the right flavor of safety. Second, Pike texts, "You good?" And a photo of a rumor thread with Jonah's name half bleeped. Jonah replies, "Yup, fixing fence." Then, after a beat, "Appreciate you." A minute later, Pike sends a thumbs up and a picture of a sandwich. Country friendship in 3 acts. By evening, cloud strips gather like punctuation over the ridge. Not heavy enough for rain, just enough to remind the sun it's mortal. The windmill clicks into its night tempo. The buffalo chews their beds with the grace of animals that have earned the right to be unafraid. On the last loop of the fence, Jonah stops at the swale and listens. The hum is still there, a faint silver filament. It no longer feels like a broadcast. It feels like a conversation waiting for a second voice. Sera joins him, stepping quiet, as if the ground were reading their footnotes. Tomorrow, she says, I'll build a translator. Not machines, us. A way to answer without shouting. A way to say, we hear you, but please whisper. Jonah nods, because the sentence steadies him. And if whatever's down there isn't whispering back, then we will still be the ones who chose courtesy, she says. Courtesy is harder to weaponize. He thinks of Town Hall, of Mrs. Linden's rope hands, of Hall's tight jaw, of Pike's quiet loyalty. He thinks of the inspector's ship rising without a report he could feel closing around his neck. He thinks of the card the regional liaison left, the one tucked under a magnet on the fridge, promising absolutely nothing except that someone once chose not to make trouble. Okay, he says into the soft, gathering dark. We listen, we whisper back. We keep it boring for anyone who loves paperwork. They stand there until the first star earns its wage. The dog leans against Jonah's calf like punctuation that finally knows where to sit. The hum thread thins, then settles into the same key as crickets. For tonight, the field and the house and the two of them agree to be a chorus instead of a signal. Much later, as Jonah switches off the porch light, the floor under his feet gives one more polite shiver, like a neighbor knocking once just to say, tomorrow.